Greetings friends and welcome to the Force Choke Ability Guide. In this video I'm going to show you how to do a classic Force Choke just like Darth Vader. Alrighty, so first things first, we're going to go to Gadgets, Gameplay Gear, then we're going to go Blank Puppet Collection and get ourselves a blank basic puppet. We're going to have one and then we're going to have a second one over here. In our first one, which is going to be our Force Choker, or our Darth Vader character, we're going to go into them and we're going to put down a little keyframe. And this keyframe is going to be the choke sort of animation or the choke pose. So we can just lift up the hand there, the head tilts back maniacally and so on and so forth. We can trigger this with R1. The next thing we're going to do is put down a tag. And this tag is going to be choker. And the choker tag is just going to give us the position of our choker, so that when we do the force choke, the person who's being choked is going to have somewhere to look. So they'll be looking at you. So now what you're going to do is you're going to go into choker and move this so that it's kind of central, just like in the center of the body. If you don't have this tag, which we're going to use in a little bit, your person who's getting choked might look off in weird directions, so it's important to have this. Then we're going to actually make another tag, and this one is going to be the choke point. And the choke point is essentially the spot where the enemy, or the rebel scum, is going to be pulled towards when you actually do a force choke. So it'll kind of be like a little bit in front of you off the ground, if that makes any sense. And this is also going to be triggered by the R1 button. Alrighty. Another thing you might want to do in this keyframe is scope out and go into your puppet and reduce their move speed. So that's their walk and their run speed and maybe even their turn speed. So that when you're doing a force choke, you can't move. You don't need to do that, but that's just a preference that I have. It's also quite similar to what they do in games like Battlefront 2. Alrighty. Next up, we're going to go into our force chokee, and just to differentiate between them, we're going to go into coat mode and make this dude orange. So he looks like, little classic Star Wars rebel scum kind of colors. Alrighty. Now, I'm going to go into this dude, and the first thing I'm going to put down is a trigger zone. And this trigger zone is going to detect a tag, and which tag in particular? Choke point. And it's going to be in a, it's going to be in this sort of an area. You can adjust the size as you desire. If you wanted to make it so that they can be choked from really far away, you can make it super huge, but otherwise you can keep it fairly reasonable. Alrighty. Then when that is triggered, we want the person to actually move towards that choke point. So we're going to go into movers and output and get ourselves a follower. And in this follower, we're going to go into tag name, choke point. We're going to reduce the speed to something like 3 meters per second. We're going to make the strength quite high, around 85%. We'll make the overall damping about 80%. If you make the strength high and you leave the damping low, it looks a little bit more juddery and shaky. If you want it more stable, then you increase the damping. You can make it even a 99%, whatever you prefer. But I'm going to make it just 80 for now. And this is going to be triggered by the trigger zone. So when the trigger zone detects choke point, the follower is going to make us move towards it. But you must also go into the follower and move the little bauble over here so that it's by the neck. Alrighty. Because otherwise it'll look like you're force choking their nuts, which isn't necessarily what you want to do. If you want to do that, that'll be a totally different video. Anyway, next thing we're going to do is incorporate a look at rotator. Now we're going to put down a look at rotator and connect it just like we did with the follower. And we're going to make this one look for tag choker. So not the choke point, but actually the choker. And the reason we do this is, if we make it, for example, look at the choke point, then as you move around, this character is going to be looking off in weird directions, when we want them to be looking at the choker the whole time. Alrighty. That's once again just a preference. You need to do whatever you feel is best for your particular game or movie or whatever it might be. Now we're going to do a little bit of a struggle animation for our rebel over here. So we're going to make it short, about only 1 second. And then we're going to go into animation, keyframe. And in this keyframe, we're just going to give them, we're going to scope into their model. And we're just going to move them a little bit off the ground and sort of lift their feet up as well, as if they're sort of floating in the air and sort of kicking around. They'll lift up their arms, you know. If you need some inspiration, you can just rewatch Star Wars number 4. Alrighty. Then you can copy this keyframe and change it ever so slightly so that it's like there's a bit of like a struggle or a movement going on here. Alrighty, and then you take the original keyframe and put it at the end. We're going to go blend, blend. Make it so that it comes to the end there. And then we're going to go into this timeline and go loop. So for as long as the choke point is detected, this character is going to be, he's going to be struggling. Alrighty, another thing that I forgot to change was in the look at rotator. It's actually important to, you'll see there's an arrow at the moment and it's pointing to the right. We must quickly go into guides, put on a grid snap, and make it so that this arrow is pointing forward. Cha-ching! Perfect. Alrighty. Now let's give it a try. So I'm gonna possess my Darth Vader character, and let's see what happens. So as you can see, I've got a bit of a force choke at the moment. I could actually move it a little bit further back. If I move around, they're gonna stay looking at me. If you feel that it's not quite like strong enough, the look at rotator, that's an easy fix. What you can do is you can make it, you can increase that strength, maybe something like 90%. We might also go into our choker and move that choke point a little bit further back because it was a little bit close. You can also turn off the old grid. So we've moved the choke point, we've adjusted the look at rotator. Let's try again. So now there they are. They're sort of struggling, and as I turn around, they're still looking at me. Da, 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 da. And they're sort of trying to reach the ground, but they can't. But yeah, there you are, friends. If you want to make this deal damage, for example, then what you would do is you'd go into this animation, and you would just put on a little health modifier. So that's the heart with all the gears in that. And you could go into it and you'd just say maybe modifier type continuous. You'd make it something low, or you know, whatever it might be depending on your game, however much damage or however much health you have. And you would do it in a zone. And for example, if this enemy was foe, if this guy was friend and this guy was foe, you'd make it so that it dealt damage to none of these types, only the foe type. And then it did it continuously, it did it in a zone around yourself. And there you would have it, friends. You would be, this dude would be being choked, and he would lose his HP as he went on. And yeah, that's an example of how you might do it, friends. Alrighty. So there you are. That's all there is to doing a force choke. If you found this useful, please let me know, friends. If you have any questions, leave those things in the comments below, and I shall make sure to answer them as is possible. And yes, friends, if you enjoyed this, please also smash that like button, potentially subscribe, and then I can find out that you guys enjoy this and make some more stuff. Alright, friends, thank you so much, and catch you on the flip-flop.